beautiful people. Welcome to the beautiful month of March. Yeah, this is a beautiful month. Why? Because it's actually my wife's birth month. On the 31st, please don't forget, reach out to her and help me wish her a happy birthday. And also, it's a beautiful month because it's another edition of your Spicy Night. Yes, Spicy Night. In case you join us for the first time and you're wondering what is Spicy Night and what it's all about, actually Spicy Night is an acronym for saving people in community through education and entertainment, and the program is designed just for that. And tonight's theme is tagged Realign, running the race. I take that again. Realign, running the race. You know, sometimes life can throw you a curveball, or you know, there can be challenges that just that can be so distracting that you get off track. And a whole lot of times when we're out of track with God's purpose for our life, it leads to depression, it leads to frustration, it leads to mental breakdown, and it leads to anxieties and and their likes. But in order for us to get back on purpose and stay on course, we have to be realigned with God's purpose. And that is why we have tonight's program that says Realign, running the race. And not only that, we'll be having music, we'll also be having spoken word, and there are people who will be sharing their testimonies with us, and also we'll be having a roundtable discussion with our very own pastors, Pastor Len and Pastor David. What a team they are. And I know you're excited already for tonight, and I'm excited as well. And I just want to appreciate you guys for hopping on the train to join us on this beautiful journey to spicy night. I hope you guys have fun, and I hope you're still blessed as you enjoy tonight's spicy night. Bye.
Working for my good because of your grace. blessed of the Lord. I'm blessed in the city, blessed in the field. In my going out and coming in, I'm the blessed one, no doubt about it. Superman, that's how I win. HOLYSPILIT. That is how I win. The Holy Ghost living inside of me. I'm the seed of Abraham. I know who I am. That is how I win, 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 win. I'm blessed. I am blessed. I'm blessed. I am blessed. I'm blessed. So blessed. In the sea, I am blessed. In the field, I am blessed. In my going out, I am blessed. And my coming in. Now everything I do, He's blessed. Everything I touch, He's blessed. And every word I say, He's blessed. Every day of my life, He's blessed.
All my blessed people, let me see you bounce to this song. Come on. Come on now.
In the morning, in the noontime, blessings everywhere I go. In the morning, in the noontime, in the morning, in the noontime, blessings everywhere I go. My. Oh yeah.
Emo on the mix.
Said I'm blessed in the morning, so blessed in the noontime, so blessed, hey, so blessed every day of my life, so blessed, come on now, I am blessed, yeah, yeah.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Spicy Night Realign. That's our theme for March Spicy Night. I want to welcome all the people joining us right now on Facebook, on YouTube, on Twitter, Periscope. Welcome to Spicy Night. If you do not mind, please put it in the chat. Where you're watching from, why you are excited to join us for Spicy Night today. We'd like to see your comments and show some of your comments. Put it up there. We have a very, very loaded and powerful lineup for Spicy Night for the month of March. I tell you guys are going to be so blessed today. I am looking forward to the discussion and what God has in store for us today. So let me just quickly talk about SPICEE, and then I will also talk about. All right, I just got a private chat that made me laugh. So let me talk about SPICEE, and then I will just explain a little bit more about the theme for today, and then I will bring our first set of guests that we're going to be having a discussion on. So SPICEE, as you must have seen in the introduction. By the way, let me just say the person that spoke at the beginning is not David West. That was an error. So that was Ugo that was speaking. So that's Ugo Yovo that spoke and introduced us. Powerful introduction. And the person who sang was just Josh Blaze, a partner with us. That was powerful. I was just jamming here and just laughing and just enjoying myself in this place in preparation to come on. So SPICEE is serving people in communities through entertainment and empowerment. So SPICEE is something that we've been having for some time. We used to have it live, like we'll come into the auditorium, we have music and discussions and interview. But then since the pandemic hit, we shifted it to online. So yeah, thank you everyone for joining. Yeah, from Chicago, from Bolingbrook, YouTube. Gus is living in YouTube. That's where he's watching from. All right. So we shifted it to online, virtual, and it's been wonderful. It's like, well, let's just keep it this way because we've been able to facilitate conversations that cross across boundaries and all that. So this is awesome. So today, the theme for this month, SPICEE, is realign. Realign. So that's why we're calling it a SPICEE Night Realign. And we're talking about running the race. It's from Hebrews chapter 12, from verse 1 to 2. So Hebrews 12, 1 and 2, the writer talks about the fact that we should all, having seen all those heroes of the faith in Hebrews 11 that he talked about, it said that since we are surrounded by such a cloud of witness, all those types of people, that what we should do is that we now need to lay aside the weight and then run with patience or run with endurance the race that is set before us, looking to Jesus, the author and the finisher of our faith. So today we're discussing the race. We're discussing the running the race. You can see that, that background behind me about, that woman running. Yeah. So we're talking about the race. Yeah. And the way we're doing it today is, in our Leading Lights program at the LDC, we teach people that there has been a misconception, and I believe God is clearing it out of the way right now, that those people who are called and who are ministers are those who stand on the pulpit and talk. Some people generally believe that. But the fact is that every area of human endeavor, every area where there's human need, there's ministry going on in there. Ministry is that point where God's love meets the need of humanity and draws them to Christ. So whatever sphere you are, you are ministering. So at the Leading Lights training, we teach about 7 spheres of influence, 7 spheres that God uses people in ministry. So we use A, B, C, D, E, F, G to remember it. So A stands for arts, entertainment, and sports. B stands for business and finance. C stands for church and religion. And then D stands for distribution and media. E stands for education, science, and technology. And then F stands for family and homes. And G stands for government and law. So we teach that in one of these 7 spheres, you will find yourself there at one time or the other. And God puts you there to be an influence, to run your race in that place and, bring some giants down in that place that have been occupying that place and, love people, show the light of Christ, show the love of Christ in that sphere that God has put you. So we teach that everybody is on one, is in one or more of these spheres. So what we're doing today is we've put together a powerful panel of people who are running their races in one or more of these spheres, and we're going to be having a discussion with them. And the subject of our discussion is just to talk about how we all can realign ourselves to our own individual purpose and the purpose of God for His body. So that's the theme of today. So it's a discussion on purpose and assignments in life and our stories and stories of impact and all that. And we have some other features that we're going to be showing as we move along in SPICEE. So not to waste any more time, take too much time, because we have some discussions that we have to get into today. I'm going to be bringing on our first panel to have the discussion with. We're going to have 2 panels, and then we're going to come back with a full panel and then talk some more about our race. So I'm going to call them on, and as I call them, they're going to be coming in one by one. I want you guys to welcome them resoundingly, however you can, virtually, from wherever you're watching from. Give them a clap, give them a shout out, and in the comment, and then just make sure that they feel very, very welcome. So let me put together. Let me call them on. So the first spheres that we're going to be having on, we have the A sphere, which is the hearts, and entertainment and sports. So we have somebody in this place that is going to be coming on that God has called in this area and that is making a difference in this area of using the arts, using music and creativity to minister. So it's been such a blessing to us as CityLight Church, to Chicago as a whole, many places around the world. We're going to get to watch one of his ministry videos as we move on today. But I want us to welcome to SPICEE Night Realign, Brother Femi Ogebule. Welcome, Femi.
Hello, Pastor Len. Good to see you.
Good to see you. Thank you for coming.
You're welcome.
Wow, it's been a while,
Yeah. I'm not sure.
Started, right?
Yeah, we've not really seen this year at all.
Yeah.
Actually, since last year.
Since last year, yes.
Yeah.
Just some online interactions and all that.
Right.
But thank you for welcoming. I'm sorry, thank you for accepting the invitation to come.
Thank you for having me. It's always a blessing and pleasure to be with you.
Yeah, thank you. So Femi, is a musician, is a worshiper. He plays the saxophone, and he organizes worship experiences, praise experiences, in different places. And it's organized annually in Chicago. Also done it in other parts of the world, and it's such a blessing. You get to see, one of the videos of the praise experiences. I believe you guys are going to be blessed, and with his story too. Let me welcome the other panelists for this section. Also, I would like to welcome somebody who God is using in the business sphere. God called her into the corporate world, into corporate America, and God, began to give her wisdom to be in that place with excellence. And now she's using what she has learned, to do ministry there, to actually help women and help other people in corporate America. She's the founder of an organization that helps people to develop professionally, to develop their careers, help people get jobs. And she has testimonies of how she just works with someone who's been trying to get a job for a long time. And then, she just works with them. And the next thing is that they get a job. So I want us to welcome to SPICEE Night right now, Miss Sheila Oshetiye. Welcome. She is the founder of Suit Herself. So she'll talk a little bit about that as we move on down. Let me welcome the last person or the last set of people for this panel. So I have known Akin for a long time. His sister and I, are friends. We actually been working together in Chicago since around the time I came to Chicago. We started working together in one of the first organizations that I was part of, and that I was leading at that time, called Impact Fellowship. That's where I got to know Fumi, and we've been friends since then. And I've known Akin since then. But in recent times, Akin has just come back into our lives, and so excited to just hear what him and his wife are doing on the West Side. You're going to actually watch a feature video of what God is using them to do on the West Side as they are learning the community and developing relationships with people there. So I want us to welcome to SPICEE Night today, fresh from vacation in Miami. That's where I want to be right now. Haki and Lauren Hakilawo.
Hi guys, how are you doing?
Yeah, welcome. How was Miami?
It was warm and sunny.
See, when you sent that text to me that you were in Miami, I was a bit jealous. I was like, "Oh, Haki, you left us in Chicago. It is cold there."
Yeah, you just need sunlight sometimes,
Yes, I need to escape too very soon. Yeah. All right, guys, welcome to SPICEE Night. So we have people watching, and they're all waiting. They want to hear from you guys. As you guys said, we're talking about running the race. I want first of all to just, when I introduce, I talked about the fact that ministry is not just preaching, right? God Ministry is wherever God meets the needs of humanity to draw them to himself, right? In any sphere. And he has people in all those spheres to minister, not just the preachers. I want you to just tell us in like a minute or so, starting with Femi, what you do. What do you consider your calling, your ministry? Just tell us a little bit about it.
Oh, okay. Well, I am a musician. I'm a music instructor. I'm an event organizer. I'm a music consultant and music director too. I would say everything, all music in every form and shape. I'm
Mhm.
also a music minister. I mean, when it comes to service, which is serving God, um, it's been part of my life for all I know. Yeah, and it has helped me to reach a lot of people, been to places I probably couldn't have dreamt of being on my own, open doors in a lot of ways.
Mhm.
And in a way, also helped lives, directly that are connected to me. So
Mhm.
it's been great, and I bless God for that.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Sheila?
Pastor Lan, it's always an honor to be here and talk to you. Thank you for the opportunity. For myself, I think that everything is always grounded on purpose. So I know that I can talk about playing many roles that God has been so faithful in giving me. Now, from a realigning my purpose, running my race perspective, I will say that I consider myself a leader whose purpose is beyond self,
Mm,
and is governed by God's principles. And what that means, I know you, and thank you for your very generous introduction. I know that my brand is specifically on empowerment and women,
mm,
and so you know beyond that, it's really just looking at helping others, mentorship.
mhm,
From a business perspective, there is definitely a profit margin associated, but more so from a godly perspective, it's empowering using strategic tools that God has placed in me, and by all means is not it by my doing; it is by His doing. So I consider myself, a faithful leader whose purpose is beyond self, calls to empower people and specifically women.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you. Lauren and Akin.
Um, I guess for us, it's funny. We've been talking a lot about purpose and making sure we're using our talents for God's kingdom, not just for financial gain or for our jobs. So for us, I think we start with God, purpose, and then action is
Mhm,
kind of the mode we're trying to get into right now, right? Start with God. He'll help show us our purpose, and then we take action on that purpose. We're, I guess, and the video kind of goes into it a little bit more, but we're specifically on the west side of Chicago, in West Garfield Park, which is one of the most violent gun violence, homicide, capitals and within the city limits. And we're here intentionally for the purposes of trying to help those people that are kind of forgotten and don't have access to resources, don't have access to some of the network we do, and
mhm.
don't have access to the kind of love and attention that maybe makes a difference in somebody's life.
Awesome. Lauren, you want to add to that?
Um, no, I mean, just purpose is a really, really important thing to think about when you're doing ministry, because I know I've lived here for 5 years now. I've been doing ministry on the West Side for 15 years. And I feel like my purpose is always changing, and I always have to go back and just make sure that I'm aligned with God's purpose, and I'm not just doing the thing that I have time to do or someone's asked me to do, but that I'm actually doing the thing that I'm made to do.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody. So I want to ask you a question. It's a theological question, but I just wanted to hear your view. So if you Hebrews 12, 1 to 2 is what we're talking about. Talking about laying aside the weight and running the race. So let's focus on running the race. When you hear that verse, running the race, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? Anybody can start. What's the first thing for you, like running the race? What comes to your mind?
The first thing that comes to my mind is not sitting on the sideline, right? We've been called to run the race. Not to sit and spectate, not to sit and watch, not to, you have to run. You have to be involved. You have to be action. You can't just sit and read the Bible and say, "Oh, that's nice that Jesus said to help people." Okay, I'm going to sleep. We have to do something. We have to be involved and run the actual race. Is the first thing that comes to mind.
Awesome. So we have to be active. A race is never run sitting down. There has to be action. You can't be on the sidelines. You have to get in the race and run. You have to run. It's an action word, to run. That's very powerful. More?
If I can add on to that, for me, it also means not deterring from what God has called me to do and to be. We're right now, the current dynamics that we're in present so many challenges. From the COVID pandemic to, in my specific sphere, in a lot of people impacted by job loss, and so things are not always easy. So just being steadfast and not deterring from God's purpose, even if it might seem very gray, very dark. And so running that race and staying consistent and not deterring from his purpose for us in our lives, regardless of the good and the bad.
Yeah, so you are speaking to endurance, like just staying there. So one thing is to start, but a race. And the race Paul is talking about here, he wasn't talking about a sprint, right? He was talking about the marathon race that they used to run, in those, the Roman world and all that. Then, so he's talking about a long distance race, something that is going to take endurance. So apart from action, is don't let anything deter you as you run your race. Femi, anything you want to add to it?
Yeah, I would say running a race is setting your eyes on a goal. It's all about a goal. You have a goal ahead of you, and you have to stay focused on achieving that goal. And it's also a journey. I mean, we get to win sometimes we lose, but we still keep our eyes on the goal.
Yeah.
So that's what a race is all about for me.
Very good. So there's also what Femi is adding to it. So Akin started by talking about the fact that you have to get into action. Pilar talked about staying there, not letting anything deter you. Femi is saying that there's also a goal. There's an ultimate goal for that race, and the goal is not necessarily all the little things that happen along the way. The ultimate goal is you getting, like, you're running a marathon. You can be first, right? Like running ahead of everybody, but that doesn't really matter. It's you lasting till the end and then just touching that finish mark, which I believe is when we meet the master. Wow, very powerful. What do you call it? Shall I call it theological exegesis or whatever you want to call it that you guys are putting to Hebrews chapter 12. Lauren, did you want to add something to that?
Yeah, I would just say that preparing for a race takes preparation, right? You can't just wake up and run a marathon. And I mean, that's important to be preparing your heart, to be praying, and to be, in the Word, so that when you get up on that day that you're going to run the race, you have all of the training that you have to get ready for it. And also, when you're running the race, the days you're not running, you're still strength training and you're still preparing yourself for that race day. And so it's not just about the actual race itself, but it's about all the work that you're doing leading up to it. And so I know for me, as I stepped into dedicating my life to ministry, it was all of the years and all of the hours and all of the mornings that I wake up really early to prepare my heart for the day and to just ask God, and I submit to him and just say, hey, it's your day. It's your, I'm running your race today, and show me what that looks like for you. And just to have that scripture emboldened in me, so that when I'm going out, I'm actually racing and it gets really hard and I want to quit, that I go back to that scripture and all those hours that I've spent sort of just realigning with why I'm even running that race to begin with.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
She's actually training for a marathon, so that's why it's a very meaningful and personal analogy for her.
Wow. So she has become one of my heroes now, because I've been preparing for the marathon in my mind for many years. Last year I was like, I was going to the gym. I hit the gym. I said, I'm going to run the marathon, and of course, COVID came, but I still have it as one of my dreams to run the marathon. So,
Well, you got a trainer now. So.
yes, please. I need it. Let's talk about, you guys are in unique spheres. So Femi, you are in the A sphere, like you are using creativity and art and music and all that to minister to people. Sheila is using business, a business sphere to minister to people, and you guys are using education, family, homes, right there, to minister to people. The question. Somebody said I can run the virtual marathon. Okay, all right, maybe that would be the lazy one. So let me ask you guys this question, because I want our audience to just learn some things from your story. The first thing is, Paul said, or no, it wasn't Paul, the writer of Hebrews. We don't know who wrote it. It said that the race is set before us. That's a powerful one. We're not the one that's supposed to determine the race, right? We're supposed to discover the race that is in front of us. How did you guys discover your own race? I know the discovery is ongoing, but where you are right now, what was the process of you discovering that this is the path that I want to go? Anyone can start first.
Okay, I'll go. That's a difficult question, actually, in the sense that sometimes you realize you think you know, then you realize you don't know, or you don't know it all. It's you learn as it goes. For me, at first, it was all about the passion, to get into music. I loved music and I like sound. I love thinking, creativity and all. But at some point, I I was not satisfied with what I do, and I was not satisfied with all I had, and I felt like something was missing. I couldn't tell what at first. Then later on, I started challenging myself that okay, this music I feel like is a means to an end. It should serve a higher purpose than what I think it would be, rather than just entertaining or making myself feel good, improvise, and just feel like, yeah, I got the game. So in search for that, I started praying more about what God really wants me to do with this. I wouldn't say like I have a divine encounter or one burning bush experience, but I realized that each time, I go out to play, whether a secular performance or church, somebody always pulls me over and says something like, you just touched me, you just touched my heart. So, and it goes a long way. And sometimes it could just be in the process of performing, I would say a word or two. And later on, somebody will see me years later that, what you said actually happened. I'm like, oh, okay. Through, I would say eventually I get to know through God speaks to me more through people. And I would say I've been trained to the land that when I hear the word, I know. Yeah, so, and through that, I realized, okay, this is actually supposed to minister to people, to bless them in any form. Some is just to, be healed, some is to be happy, and some they just want to recover from something. And I realized, so for me, uh, when I play, I am not just playing. Anytime I carry my horn to play, I realize that I am representing someone on earth, which is God Himself. So whatever happens through that, I'm just a channel through which it touches people. And later on, I started setting goals for myself that, okay, what can I do? Much more things, which brought about praise experience and other event that I do. Then even at now, I still want to do more. So during the pandemic, it gives us, I believe everybody, chance to think more, goals that you set for yourself you want to do. And I started thinking, how can I actually reach the community to be more effective and bless people? So I got involved with different organizations, especially those who actually need help, human trafficking, women empowerment. I'm so happy that actually when I was talking about that, I got collaborations with different organizations and also actually with Akin, because right now I'm working on something that will benefit the Western community, in the western part of Chicago.
Awesome.
So yeah, so it's all about uh, using the tool of music to minister to people at the same time to draw them to Christ and also empower them in reaching out, inviting organizations, business parastatals that can actually help see what is going on and see what they can do to help.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I could go next. As I was listening to Brother Femi, I was just thinking about this scripture that comes to mind, where God says, before I made you, I knew you, right? And it's funny though, because the other day I was having a conversation with my mom, and she was, had a birthday a few days ago. And so she was reflecting on my childhood, and she mentioned some things that I don't even remember where, that's how I, just put this Bible verse together, where at a very young age, I displayed some traits that were really aligned to what I'm working in my sphere in right now. So that's why I say, when God said, before I made you, I knew you, right? I formed you. So I think for me, God had already placed this calling or this purpose, to work as a little leader in those little spaces, growing up, just but again, I don't even remember these things. She mentioned some of these things, but then, when I think about my childhood, growing into my teenage years and into my schooling, undergrad and graduate school, there were some experiences where they made me uncomfortable, and they stretched me to take on roles that I didn't necessarily think I was prepared for. And those things have shaped me, and I believe God had a plan. Again, before I formed you, I knew you. So it's almost like he knew that these are the things that he was preparing me for at that young age, at those teen years, as I continued. And those traits, whether it was, communication skills, whether it was, thinking strategy, whether it was pivoting, whether it was being more decisive in my own decision making in very uncomfortable scenarios. But fast forward, I'm not very old, but fast forward from college, I remember attending Leading Lights Pastor Lan, and then again, another scripture comes to mind. I believe it's Romans 8:28, where he talks about, God works. God works.
All things together for our good. Right?
Yes, God works and puts all things together for our good, as long as we love Him and are working in alignment to our purpose. So during the Leading Lights training, I think, that was when there was a green light, truly a light bulb that just flickered. And also at that time, I knew because that verse talks about he works in our good as long as we love him. So I know my spiritual life was growing. I actually gave myself to Christ again. I was born again as a teen, but then I gave my life again. And so I know I was starting to love him more. And as I was starting to love him more, and during that Leading Light training, and after that, the purpose just became magnified. So all those years were preparations, but until then, where there was this realization of purpose, I think that's when it was like, wow, okay. So now in the atmospheres or in the situations that God had placed me, I needed to then kind of revamp my calling by really working in my purpose. So whether it was in the corporate world, whether it was in mentorship, I started mentoring young girls in the south side of Chicago, whether it was, even as being a big sister or an auntie, as we say in Africa, everyone is an auntie if they're older than you. And so I think that is how I came to kind of cultivate that purpose. And then, of course, complementing that with schooling, with experience from a corporate perspective, with networking, because I believe that no man is an island. So just working with those types of opportunities, that was what cultivated my purpose.
Wow, thank you. Thank you for sharing. That's so enlightening to people that are watching, just that process. And you talked about the different aspects of it, of how it all came about. Akila once.
I would say just staying close to both my passion and God at the same time. So, and getting really proximal to both of those. You know, I started doing ministry back, you know, in high school, and just kept following slowly, staying really close to ministry and continuously through college and then moving to the city. Just staying close to people who were doing ministry, dabbling in ministry in various sectors just to see where it was I was actually supposed to be. And then listening to God really, really closely. And I will say for me, I still am kicking and screaming. I don't always want to be here. I don't always want to be doing this. And I will say that I feel like the call on my life and the purpose on my life is clear, and maybe too clear. And I often didn't tried to fight it and tried to veer away from it. And God just kept pulling me right back. But for me, what was the most beneficial was to keep, I didn't jump right in, completely right away. I slowly just started getting closer and closer and closer to, and then finally was able to feel peace and ready to just take the plunge and do it all completely. But I had so many people that I met along the way that could encourage me, that were resources. And I had so much scriptural background and so much confirmation from God that by the time I actually took the complete step to move into West Garfield Park and to buy this house, there was, I had spent enough time doing ministry in this area that it made sense. And I had enough people that had come around me and said, yeah, this is exactly what's supposed to be in your life. And I'd spent enough time with God and feeling that piece of in confirmation.
Awesome. Akin, do you want to say something to it?
Not too much more. Just I mean, the two big things for me were probably marrying Lauren, honestly, and in a lot of ways, just being exposed to what she was already doing within ministry, and then having a partner who is really like focused on that and talking about that and like living that. It makes it more like top of mind just every day for us. Yeah. And then funny enough, actually, it's something I think you said, Pastor Lon, years ago, I came to a Bible study at CityLight in the back room.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, and you said something. It's funny. I remember that Bible study because I've referenced it a couple times when we've talked. But you were talking kind of about God's permissible will and kind of God's perfect will, and it's the idea of like I can live my life in a way that's like permissible to God and it's fine, or I can live my life in a way that's like His perfect will, what He actually designed me to do. Yeah. Why He gave me specific giftings and specific talents and put me in specific places at specific times. Yeah. So why wouldn't I rather do that? So I think those are the two big things.
Awesome. Thank you. So for this segment, I'm going to ask you guys a question. It's going to be double, and that will be our final question. Double kind of a question. Still from Hebrews 12:2. For your unique sphere of influence, the place where you are walking. So in Hebrews 12, it talks about laying aside the weight, right? Like we have to lay aside the weight to run the race, right? So my first question for you is, what are some weights that you from your own life, like your own story, that you had to lay? A weight is not necessarily a sin, right? It's just something that probably you love doing or whatever that you had to lay aside. Then the second one was when it says that we should endure, it means we're going to face some challenges, right? What are some unique challenges in the sphere that you are working in that you have noticed, that you have, that you have experienced? If you can just, share that with us. Yeah. And anyone can go first. So weights and challenges, unique giants that you are facing in that sphere as you are ministering there.
Oh, man.
I mean, we can start. I would say for me, a weight that I had to let go was friends. When I moved to West Garfield Park, I was single, living with one of my best friends in Logan Square. Logan Square has a lot of restaurants. It's safer. So when I moved to Garfield Park, first of all, my friends didn't feel comfortable coming here. Second of all, there's not much here. There's nothing I can walk to. So I had to sacrifice my entire lifestyle. And I moved here when I was in my young 30s. And that's a time where a lot of my friends were still be, able to go to restaurants and walk to places. And that was a huge sacrifice to me, to say I live in Chicago and I'm not going to be able to just walk to a restaurant, walk to the grocery store, walk to a coffee shop.
Mm-hmm.
And more importantly, I'm going to come to a place where my friends may not want to visit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then the challenges, probably our biggest challenge is safety. So we live in an actively violent area with gun violence, is being the most aggressive one. Drugs with every 45 seconds, drug deals are happening out front of our house, and now we have a baby. And so for me, the biggest struggle we have is, even as we're sitting here, I'm aware that we have windows, and I'm aware that there might be bullets flying at some point in the next couple hours. And so I think for probably for both of us, but definitely for me, that one of the biggest challenges we have to overcome is when I step out my door, or even when I'm sitting in my house, that God is going to protect us, and that there will be no bullets that come through. There will be no altercations outside that will significantly impact our life.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that. Thank you so much for sharing that. And that's unique into that sphere, working among families and all that. It's something unique. I've experienced it to an extent on the south side and all that. I know you guys are even in a very unique place, but God continues to protect you, and God that put you there will continue to keep you and the family as long as He's put you there. All right, others.
I guess I could go. So, I'm sure there are many things that will come to mind after this, Pastor, and you really put us on the spot. I thought these were going to be easy questions. When we talk about weight, one of the things that I can think about is the timing of even starting this platform. Really exactly a year ago, and that we were in March, the pandemic had just hit, and it was just ludicrous for someone to think about investing in a business, right? And thinking about, uncertainties and just the timing. But then there was this push for this drive that this was needed. So I think for me, the weight was the timing, and that's why I say don't deter from God's calling for you. It really came from that place, right? And then, some unique circumstances, I will say that one, balance. I play, many hats, as all of us do. And, I'm very thankful that God has given me a partner, my husband, who is always supportive. He's not always on the scenes, he's always behind the scenes and supporting a lot of these dreams. And so, and then also, I'm also a mom. And so just kind of that balance, I think sometimes it can be a challenge. I don't think there is ever going to be that harmonious balance. I think it's sometimes sacrifice and just asking God for grace and just repeating, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. So I think balance. And then the other one, Pastor Lan, is, I work in a very male-dominated sphere, a space, white, male-dominated. And so sometimes just, asking God for confidence, because I need that to even be the best self that I can be for the people that I need to empower. And so I think that's something that I'm always asking and praying about, just to instill confidence in me to really bring out this purpose and what He's called me for. So I would say the fact that my sphere is not necessarily in an environment where people look like me or talk like me. On top of that, I'm African. So, sometimes it can be a challenge. So I just thank God for grace. So that's what I can think about, but I'm sure, Pastor Lan, I can think of many more. You always give us these types of questions.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. I'm sure people are connecting with you. Busyness is one of those things, like you talked about, balancing, managing the tension, as I like to call it, because you can't truly balance equal. You have to manage the tensions of family, of your other assignments. You have to just keep managing that tension. But the tension is part of how life is exciting. So thank you for sharing that. Femi.
Yeah, truly is a tough one. talking about weight in music in general, there are a lot of weights that can really pull you down. First of all, association, the kind of people you align yourself with.
Mhm.
You know, there are different aspects of music. It's just like medicine is so broad and wide.
Mhm.
But if you're a performer or a performing artist or
Mhm.
composer, writer, and all,
Yeah.
um, the thrill of performance is always there, and you just want to be on the stage.
Mhm.
And it comes with a lot of challenges, and so you have to learn to really be disciplined,
Mhm.
to survive and to succeed. Also, if you're really good, there'll be a lot of things that'll be thrown at you,
Mhm.
and you have to learn to say no to some events
Yeah.
that probably as a child of God that will compromise your faith. There
Mhm.
are places you don't want to be seen performing.
Mhm.
There are some people you don't want to be seen aligned with
Yeah.
because you know they do not stand for the will of God.
Mhm.
So that is something,
Mhm.
I had to do in a very hard way, but thank God for the grace.
Yeah.
A lot of things, but I think that's one of
Yeah.
them.
Thank you. I mean, isn't
Yeah,
one of those things pride also for someone that is in that
exactly.
sphere? You attract a lot of people, and
Right,
you
right.
know.
And so naturally for me,
Mm.
it's good you spoke about pride. Naturally for me, I know musicians were generally proud
Mm.
because we believe we are like out there.
Mhm.
So one of the first things I worked on was the issue of pride. I try as much as possible to stay humble. In fact, I go to some places, they're expecting me to sing the fly and everything. They're like, "Where is the guy? He's here. Wow. You're
Mhm.
not acting like an artist. We thought you'd be like coming." I'm like, but I'm a person too,
Yeah. Mhm.
and but when it comes to challenges, there are a lot of challenges. In music, one of the challenges is money, finances.
Mhm.
Music is very expensive,
Mhm.
and a lot of people do not know that. Uh, Sometimes when I'm teaching or organizing workshops, and they say, "Okay, how do you charge or do this?" And I'm like, "Okay, think about it this way: you're inviting a musician to perform probably for 5 minutes.
Mhm.
As a consumer, all
Mhm.
you're thinking about is, I just want you to be there for 5 minutes, so you can do it for $100, and it's just 5 minutes.
Mhm.
But that 5 minute performance takes hours of practice
Yeah.
that nobody would see, you
Yeah.
know, and years of practice actually, probably to master a technique and all.
Mhm.
Everything combined. Sometimes I have a concert coming up, and I have to rehearse one piece maybe for 6 months,
Mhm.
especially if it's a classical concert,
Yeah.
just to get on stage to perform maybe for 15 minutes.
Yeah.
But the hours put into the time and everything,
Mhm.
it takes so much.
Yeah.
And you don't always get a return when it comes to money. So when you look at it and all you think about really is money, you'll be really discouraged,
Yeah.
you know. And also there are people around you that are probably working with you, but they don't have the same vision.
Yeah.
There is God's vision for you, and there are also people's vision.
Mhm.
And when you don't try to clarify that and distinguish in between what God wants you to do and what people really want you to do and what your vision is as well,
Yeah.
it can be really confusing and challenging.
Yeah.
And learning to
Thank you for sharing that, and thank you very much to our panelists. We will have you guys back at the end. I know Sheila, you have to step out to do something. We just talked about it, but we'll have the rest back at the end to conclude as we go to our second panel. But before we go to our second panel, we're going to watch, something quickly. So I want to say thank you to you guys for sharing your perspective, and I'll see you guys back in a moment. Okay, so I'll move you guys backstage. Okay.
Hi, this is Aki,
I'm Lauren.
and this is just a kind of video summary of what we're doing on the west side of Chicago, specifically West Garfield Park, and what brought us to this area.
So we live in West Garfield Park, which is generally contends for one of the 3 most violent neighborhoods in Chicago. On our block, we've had 5 murders in the past 4.5 years. Bullet hole in our mailbox, lots of drug and fighting and domestic violence issues that happen on our block. And we do ministry over here on the west side. We help run an after-school program for youth. We work with a local church to just kind of serve the neighborhood in general. We our goal is to build relationships within our neighborhood to help just be a part of this neighborhood as it changes and grows and kind of becomes what it used to be before it had a shift. We are working towards, with our neighbors, to form a block club with the goal of partly to keep it clean, partly to reduce violence, and partly to reduce the amount of drug traffic. We've tried a lot of different ways to use the help that's out there, using government officials and police to try and make a change over here, but it hasn't been super effective. So now we're just strategizing by working with our neighbors to say, how can we help this block look different? I moved here about 5 years ago and been volunteering in West and East Garfield Park for about the past 10 to 15 years. God has just laid this neighborhood on my heart in particular. I felt a very strong calling just to love on people in this neighborhood and to be a part of it. And we have been very intentional about not coming in and just saying, hey, we have an idea, we're going to tell you how to change your neighborhood, but we live here and you're part of the block, we're part of the community, and we've been learning how to grow with this neighborhood. There's been a lot of really beautiful things that we've experienced and a lot of really hard things, and we're just continuously giving thanks to God for the way He's protected us and the relationships He's given us in this area, and for the ways that He's sort of changed our lives through letting us see what a whole other part of the city looks like, and also for just the goodness that He's had in continuing to bring people into our neighborhood that are driving change.
I think Lauren sums it up pretty well. So, led by God, trying to figure out different ways to serve, to help reduce violence, help reduce poverty, help reduce lack of resources, help with education gaps, help with domestic abuse gaps, and ultimately at the forefront of it all is to do it through Christ and through God. We're not here because we're good people. We're here specifically because we believe that we're called by Christ to help the less fortunate and to help the least of these. So any organization can go out and say, I'm a good person, so I volunteer at these organizations, but are you talking about Christ while you're doing it? Are you using it as a doorway to lead people back to Christ? So that's definitely at the forefront of everything we try to do here and all the different things we're involved in. And, funny thing we always kind of say is Lauren chose this area prior to us dating and getting married, and I was very adamant against not wanting to live in this area and not wanting to be in this area from a pure safety perspective. But almost like Saul traveling and then getting struck by that, light, and by God saying, you're now this, you're now Paul. I was walking one day and I just got struck by this overwhelming command of, no, you have to live in this area, because if you don't, you're gonna forget about these people. You're gonna write a check, you're gonna give money, but you'll never think about them. You need to see them every day. It was a message that came to me very clearly, so we definitely felt led by God for our time here. We hope that we can just continue to find ways and other allies on this walk.
Awesome. Powerful testimonial discussion about running the race. This is Spicy Night again, Spicy Night for the month of March. And we're talking about realignment. We're talking about running the race that God has set before us and walking in our divine purpose. We just had a panel that came on that represented the spheres of influence of hearts, business, and family and homes. Now we also have another panel that's going to be coming on now, and we're going to be getting into a discussion, a power panel. We have people in the church sphere, we have someone in the media sphere, and we have someone in the government sphere. That is going to be coming on. So I'm going to be welcoming them on to the show, to Spicy Night right now. So audience, please, as I bring them on, just welcome them with love. So let me start by welcoming my very dear friend, Scott. Scott Walker. We've been, that's just Scott Walker. Scott Parker. So, we've been, meeting and jamming and just getting together in meetings, citywide meetings and, some planning meetings with Chicagoland United in Prayer. And then, we just, when, I moved to the north side and began to, just walk within the Rogers Park area. It was one of those people I called because he has lived in Rogers Park for, decades, decades. And you will hear about that. So I had to call him, came over. And then I remember I took a note and we were drawing stuff and it was just explaining everything. This road, this is the road, this is the intersection, this is the restaurant, this is that. And I was just taking note and taking note. Scott has done, God is using him to do, amazing stuff. Last summer during the, all those protests going on, Scott was, one of those people God was using to organize the body of Christ on the north side, and we're, together doing marches and doing all that. He's a pastor. He's a media person, especially, and I really wanted him to come and talk about the media aspect because he tells stories with media. So let's welcome Scott Parker to SPICEE Night. Hello, Scott.
Hey, Pastor. Can you hear me? My internet connection has been weird tonight, so I just want
we can hear you very clearly, loud and clear.
All right, good.
Yeah, thank you for joining. So let me get the other folks on too. But welcome. And also, I have someone in the church sphere. He's a pastor also on the south side of Chicago. There, that God is using his church to really do wonderful stuff. I've been hearing a lot about it. Pastor Olu, Pastor Peace. In our setting, they all just keep talking about Pastor Moody and his wife, Pastor Moody and his wife, Pastor Moody and his wife. And, thinking about SPICEE Night for March, we're just talking, I'd like to hear, from him, his perspective as a pastor right there on the south side and, and the different things, going on there. So let's welcome to SPICEE Night, Pastor Moody. Welcome, Pastor. Pastor is taking some drink. Hi, Pastor Moody. Hello, can you hear me? I don't know if you can hear me. Pastor Charles. Hello, can you hear me? Oh, sorry, your mouth, your mic is muted. Can you unmute yourself? Let's see. You are still muted. So there's something on your picture right there that says unmute your mic on the right side of your picture. All right. So while we're figuring that out, let me welcome our third guest for this panel. She's representing the government sphere. A lot of things said about the police. A lot of things have been going on, police and community and all that. But one of the amazing things that people don't know has been going on in the city of Chicago is that there has been, a continual collaboration of members of the Chicago Police Department and churches. And CityLight and the Light Development Center, we are very much a part of that, in our district and, even other districts. And one of our key partners at the LDC within the police department is on here today to talk about, being a police officer and living the purpose of God. So let's welcome to SPICEE Night, Sergeant Yolanda Walton. She actually just finished a meeting that involved all, police district around Chicago before jumping into this meeting. Welcome to SPICEE Night, Sergeant Yolanda. Thank you. Let's just test your mic. Can you talk? I just want to make sure that people can hear you.
Praise the Lord, everybody.
Awesome. We can hear you. What about Pastor Charles? Okay. Oh, you're still muted. Let's see. It's the thing is that I cannot unmute you. It will not allow me to. Okay, you are now unmuted, but we still cannot hear you. Hello. Okay, so we are having some problems with Pastor Moody. We want to hear your voice. Pastor Olu, please, can you help him backstage to get him connected? Please help Pastor Charles get connected, Pastor Olu. Thank you. So so let's move on, and Pastor Charles will join us. So I want to welcome you both to SPICEE Night. You must have seen from the first conversation, from the first panel, that we're just talking about how God can use any sphere that we are in to minister to people. And that's what I just want to talk about, your story of ministering in sphere. But want to thank you for coming. So let's start with Sergeant Yolanda. Can you tell us what you do?
So I've worked for the Chicago Police Department for 15 years, and I decided to become a police officer, one, because and not that I had any interactions with the police as at a young age, but I have seen in my community, in which that was Inglewood, I didn't see police officers that looked like me. And I can remember an occasion where a young man was pulled over, and it was a couple of Caucasian police officers, and just what I seen was enough to make me kind of fear police. And so I was kind of devastated from that experience. Not only that, but just seeing so many different incidents, on TV was enough for me to say, hey, you know what? You either take a stance now or you just fall for anything. So I decided to take a stand. So that's that. But however, my mom had always kept us in the Word of God from early on, being at Catholic school, growing up as an adult, continuing on with with my walk with God. And I can tell you this, being a police officer and serving God just seems like a win-win situation for me, because there's not one time that I don't walk out there and not ask God to cover me in a body of armor. More so than now, as police officers, we're not just feared, but we're not respected either. And so because we're not respected, people don't respect us as individuals and what we stand for, because some people just don't understand what we stand for. They only judge the uniform, but not the person behind the uniform. And because they judge the uniform and what it represents, oftentimes some of us behind that uniform falls victim. We fall victim to the senseless violence. We fall victim to the disrespect. We fall victim to unwarranted stereotypes. But on the other perspective of that, rightfully so, right? Because there has been situations, there has been things that and scenarios that has been played out in the media that doesn't put such a positive light on the police officer. But I work very closely with our faith-based subcommittee in the 2nd District. And we have collaborated on many events. And I can tell you, in the 2019, which was a very good year for us as far as the decrease in crime, but the increase in partnerships. Pastor Moody being very instrumental in opening up his doors to allow the district police officers and community members to play basketball, right? Forging that relationship. So, and also with the community, with the different church organizations coming out into the streets and having prayer on the corner. So those partnerships have been so instrumental to the decrease in crime. But not only that, but putting feet to ideals that just that once just manifested in our head, but now they come fruition. But then we've seen the positive result of that. We've seen the decrease in crime. We've seen the increase in trust, and we've seen the and we've seen the increase in collaborations. So I am very, very happy and very fortunate to have such a connection, not only to the faith-based organization, but through my faith, through my undying faith for God and my willingness to serve, it has caused me to align myself with people that share the same vision as myself, and that's the vision of walking in the likeness of God.
Thank you so much. So you see being in the police force as a calling, right? Like that's your calling. Very good. I love that.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, I love that. Pastor Moody, welcome.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you clearly. And nice to meet you. I've heard so much about you, but we've never met. I don't think we've met physically.
No.
So I'm Pastor Olu's pastor. I'm Peace, but there's a whole lot that's been going on that they keep telling me. The prayer on the corner, all kinds and all that. So I just want to welcome you. I want to thank you for your partnership and just all the amazing things you are doing in the city of Chicago on the South Side. So, and thank you for coming. I know you're a very busy man. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Yeah. So let me ask you a quick question. So you are a pastor, right? That's your heart. That's your calling.
Yes.
Okay. Why did you choose to be a pastor? What led you into that? And
the simple answer is the Lord. Yeah. Really. It is definitely a calling. It wasn't something that I pursued, but it was truly a calling from God that brought me from New York to Chicago to really show the love of Christ and be a witness. And the Lord called my family here to show the community that a relationship with Jesus Christ is so much more than just going to church, but it's supposed to impact every single area of our life. So the Lord didn't just call us to stay inside the walls of the church, but to reach people outside the walls of the church and show the love of Christ to them. Yeah. And that's what we were created for.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Scott, so what's coming to your mind? First of all, what do you do? Let's start with that. What do you do, Scott? And then I would like you to talk about what comes to your mind when you talk about the race. Hebrews 12:1 to running the race, like staying in our calling and just running that race until we meet Christ. Go ahead, Scott.
Yeah, so I mean, it's interesting you brought me on as a media person. I just became a pastor, so I don't know if I'm qualified anymore. But I just think that I'm more and more though. So I bring that up because my dream when I was 12 years old was to be an actor, and then that involved into want to be a movie director, and make movies for Jesus. So I go to school and get prepared to do that, and God calls me to Rogers Park, and I started a movie ministry with kids in the neighborhood where we were making movies with kids, and I just had this idea of what I wanted to be. I had a real clear picture that I wanted to make. I wanted to live incarnate in a community, make movies and tell stories that would glorify God and reach my neighborhood. And we did that, but we did that at a level of production that was not what I wanted it to be, and I've never had a movie in the theater, and that was a huge, honest disappointment for me. So I think sometimes when younger, if you would ask me what does it mean to run the race, I would have had in my mind this goal and of being a successful film director. Now what that idea is is to keep the faith and to keep that abiding relationship with Jesus. And that's more, I'm learning that's more of a day moment, right? I was listening to Ray Baki this week, one of his YouTube videos, and he said, you know, the word believe is not used very often.
We're having some problem with your
born again
audio.
is not used very often. But
We're having some
the phrase
problem
you
with
keep
your
hearing with
audio.
Jesus is
yeah. So your internet is going in and out. We can, you know, get what you are saying, but sometimes there's a break.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah. Yeah, we can hear you. Mm-hmm. Yep. Go ahead.
Yeah. I'm worried about that. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you. We can hear you.
So anyways, I just think like the race is just to kind of keep up with Jesus, you know. That's the race for me. The race is to keep the faith, and it's not accomplishing a tremendous amount of goals. It's Jesus is the goal, and that's a day by day, moment
Thank you.
by moment race, you know.
Thank you.
And yeah.
Thank you very much. So, Sergeant Yolanda, I want to ask you, and Pastor Moody, I want to ask you the same question. That Hebrews 12, 1-2, running the race with patience and all that for our audience. So we're calling this realign. Like everybody start running, stay in there. What comes to your mind? Like what you know, when you think of that scripture of running the race, especially from your own experience in your sphere?
So, as a 10-time marathon runner myself.
10 times?
And as
that's
yes,
that's 10 times more than.
Oh my goodness! She's trying to embarrass me. I want to go back to you.
Have you run the marathon before too?
Who?
You.
No, I drive.
Okay. I wouldn't feel too ashamed. So
I have ran Chicago Marathon 10 times. And running a race is like, running a race, and we mentioned, you know, Hebrews 12:1, where he talks about, you know, just how, you know, just like, you know, having the witness and being close to something, right? And you know, and endurance. So running a marathon is all about, it's not necessarily about the time you finish. It is about the time you finish, but it's more importantly, and if you have to equate that with God, right, it's about having endurance, right? Having that endurance that no matter what happens in that race, you're going to hit a wall, right? You're going to go through some pains and tribulations. You're going to fall down. You're going to and you're going to get back up. But having the endurance and seeing what's ahead, right? What is that you're trying to accomplish, right? And for me, most things that I encounter or that I go through is about the end goal. What is that end goal? And that end goal is to finish, right? To finish. But to have the perseverance to just keep on, just to keep on moving. And Philippians 3:13 reads that, brother, I cannot consider what I have made it on my own. But one thing I do is forgetting what lies behind.
Yes.
And keep on striking forward, right? Keep on moving ahead. So it doesn't matter what's behind, right? Because what's behind is already past. but keep on moving forward. And again, and I do all things through Christ that strengthens me, right? Because God is what gives me the strength. He gives me the strength to just keep it moving forward. And that is just like that race, right? I can remember a few times when I had hit that wall. My my legs are hurting, my knees are hurting. And I would just say, God, if you just let me finish just one more mile, just one more mile. And I would keep on saying that until I had crossed that finish line. And it, glory to God. Thank you. Thank you. You have allowed me to make it through. And I think and that's just life in general, right? We can't, everything is not a sprint. Everything is not a sprint. Most things that we do in life is a marathon. And I will tell you, I started off in high school as a sprinter. And so, I know it from both ends. So that's just how, that's how I proceed in life, like a marathon.
Thank you. Thank you so much. That's so powerful. Pastor Moody, the race.
Well, I wasn't a marathon runner. Negative 10 times.
Same here.
But just even when we talk about running a race, now I was a sprinter when I was younger, running in the CYO league. And one thing that the coach always tell you is to never look back, to always look forward.
Yes.
Sarge, Sarge, don't help me, Sarge. You already made me feel bad. Do not help me. All right. Keep your applause to yourself. All right. Do not help me. Thank you. All right. let me get my pastor face back on. But anyway, so as a sprinter, they always tell you don't look back, always look forward. And the coach will always tell you to run your race. Don't look at the man to the right of you or to the left of you. Just look forward, or else you'll be easily distracted. And even with this walk with God, that we have to keep our eyes on him, because he is the author and finisher of our faith. Not organizations, not man, not your wealth, not your education. God is the author and finisher of your faith. So when we're running this race, we have to run the course that God has set for us, not a course that we think we supposed to run, but knowing God. So when I think about the race, and the end is to receive the prize that will not perish, that will not rust, that will not decay, that crown of life that's eternal. So when I think about running a race, it's not to look at how other people is running their race, but just to be thankful that God has me in the race. So there you go. I don't want to compete with Sergeant. I will race you though, Sarge. Let's see.
Talking about competition, like one of the things you said just brought it to my mind. You said something, Pastor Moody, about running your own race, the one set before you, not somebody else's race, right? It. I'm sure you've observed it, that a lot of people, a lot of believers, it doesn't matter what sphere they are functioning in or what they are doing. There's this thing that we keep looking at. We look at somebody else where they are, and we look at ourselves where we are. And there's that comparison, there's competition, even among pastors, right? One of the, I'm sure, Scott, Pastor Moody, one of the things that you have noticed, right, being pastor in the city of Chicago, is that one of the big giants that we have to conquer is that giant of, competition versus collaboration, right? And I know you guys exemplify that. Sergeant, you exemplify that. I wanted us to speak to that thing of everybody has a unique race, right? We don't need to compete, but we can collaborate, Yeah, so any one of you can go to just speak about that. Yeah.
I think that.
So I guess I'll speak.
Okay.
No, go ahead, Sarge. Ladies first.
Thank you. So when we were talking about collaboration and
Competition versus
I
competition.
think and competition. Yeah, competition. I think where there are certain individuals that thrive off of their own self gratification as far as saying, hey, listen, this is what I have done, right? But I think, and if we are, and that happens even in government, it happens in the corporate world, and sometimes it even happens in the spiritual realm of churches, right? But I'm saying we because I'm saying we as intentional, especially in the second district subcommittee, faith-based subcommittee, that we're very intentional about ensuring that everyone is at the table, that there is no one, we try to keep people from out of their own silos, and having inclusivity where we all are collaborating and where we're all getting the glory, if you want to say, of God, and that recognition. So I think we're all intentional about that. And I think that's why, Pastor Olu was intentional and about inviting us on this panel, Pastor Moody and myself, not just us, but he's been very intentional with including our whole faith-based, organization. So we can have the collaboration, because where two or more are gathered, right? Where two or more are gathered, the masses, benefit. And so, and that's where we are. So I think I'm going to put a pin on it and let Pastor Moody, kind of like, add his thought to it.
All right, over to you, the two pastors.
Thank you, Sarge. When the people in the Bible was building the Tower of Babel, they spoke one language and they had one goal in mind. And because of that, God said there's nothing that they could not accomplish together and confuse their language. And I believe instead of trying to build a tower that's going to reach the heaven, that we would begin to build another tower together. And when we're not competing and there's a collaboration, we see that there's more good that could happen. Like Sarge was talking about in 2019, how crime was reduced, was not because of one person was doing something, but it was because there was a collaboration. And I think that most cities suffer when we begin to compete with one another and not come together. You have many organizations doing the same thing, reaching the same people, and reinventing the same wheel over and over again.
Fighting for the same funds.
Fighting for the same funds and not seeing an impact in our community. And one thing that the Lord has really put on my heart was to find the organizations with the resources to reach people instead of trying to get the funds to do the same thing that people do. So I thank God. Like I rave about the police department. I shouldn't say the entire police department, but the CAPS department, because I get to witness these individuals try to collaborate with the community. And if it costs them something, that they're willing to pay the cost, whether it's time, whether it's resources. And my prayer always is that the church will also be one of the first ones that's willing to pay the cost, whatever it may be, so that there would be truly peace in our street and success and prosperity right in our community. So that's something that I truly believe can happen once we collaborate over competing against one another.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Pastor Moody. Scott, I know that's one of your area of passion, like, people working together.
Are you guys able to hear me? You guys even are going in.
We can hear you. We can hear you.
Yeah. Well, okay. Good. We're one church, it seems like to me, right? And we have one boss. One thing that's been our side is we don't have any Walmart churches, right? We don't have any giant, big established churches in our community. And it was interesting. I'd been here a really long time, and there were kind of like no really Bible preaching churches in Rogers. Like
in Rogers Park, you
one
mean?
year,
Mm-hmm.
it was like 4 churches showed up all at the same time. And I think because everybody was, in Rogers Park. And I think because everybody was small, they were a lot more willing to work with each other. And so I really view like Pastor Lon, he's like my co-pastor, you know. Pastor Jason is my co-pastor, you know. And when we try to get things done, I feel like we try to do it together first, and if that doesn't, then we start doing it by ourselves. I mean, that's kind of our attitude.
Okay. So you make all the attempts you can for collaboration, and sometimes it might not work, right? Then you have to go ahead and just get it done anyhow, while you keep praying for collaborations, right? Okay. Looks like Scott, we still having audio. Let me ask one last question before we shift, and then I will just have everybody
I
the
think,
other panel join us. Yeah, go ahead, Scott. Okay. All right. So while we're sorting that out, I wanted to ask you just one final question, still on the race. I asked the other panel about weights, right? So the writer of Hebrews talked about laying aside the weight and running with patience or endurance the race set before us. I wanted you to talk about, in the police force, in pastoring, in media, in pastoring for Scott. What are some of the weights that you have to let go? Because there are people who are watching that God is calling into this, these areas that you have to let go. And what are the challenges, the giants that we face in these spheres, and how do we run that race? How do we endure to overcome those giants?
I would say one of the weights would be fear. Fear of failure. Fear of not being able to succeed or to meet man's standard. And I have seen fear and doubt stop people from even going before. And when we read the word, we continue to see over and over that God continues to use people who are unqualified, but people who's willing to make themselves available unto him. And those people God tend to use to do supernatural things. I always preach and share with people that we serve a supernatural God, and what he's expecting us to do is the natural. If we would do the natural, God will breathe on that and make it supernatural.
Awesome.
So just step out.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much for that. That's powerful. Sergeant and Scott, weights and giants.
So for me, one of the biggest weights for me, just policing and being a police officer, being an African American woman, and being a supervisor is making sure that there is a balance with what is morally right in my head and what is
the law, right?
I guess right. Well, for me, it's right and wrong, right? I mean, I'm kind of like, I'm kind of like a black and white person, and so if, like, if I'm out there and and I see something that blatantly doesn't make sense to me, first of all, having the courage to say what is right, and ensuring that I follow up and to ensure that it's done, and ensuring that it's done correctly, right? So that's just, one thing, right? Because we're living in a society where there is so much judgment and so much judgment in what you do, right? And so much judgment in right and wrong. So just having, just balancing out to make sure that, hey, these are what the laws say. This is how we should, and this is how we should react. This is what we should do, right? But for me, I think the biggest balance for me is, is making sure that my words speaks, my actions of what I do. For one, being a spiritual person, ensuring that what I preach is how I walk, right?
Okay.
In my office, I have this is at work. I have the Bible open to Psalms, and I have these two statuette, these really, really heavy, kind of like cross, right? I've found it recently, but it's kind of like this little, it's kind of like my little safe, spot, right? And not being afraid to show that, right? Because some people will think that if you show any sense that you may be a Bible thumper, right? And then also you're serving God, but also you're a police officer. How do you do both of them, right?
Yeah.
And then going out there and seeing things that's kind of like unbearable, and having the strength to keep on pressing through, and not becoming emotional, but not becoming so detached where I don't have feelings for that, for that particular situation. And so sometimes that is a difficult balance. So that's
awesome.
That's kind of how I would describe it.
Awesome. Scott? Scott, can you hear us? Okay, I think we're still having problems with Scott's audio.
I keep losing you guys. I don't
Yeah, one last question, please, for you, for Sergeant Yolanda. I wanted to ask this question quickly. It's about all the things that took place last year. Being an African-American police officer, right? And then there was a whole uproar in the nation, rightly, because of George Floyd and all that. How did you process that, being Black and being a police officer?
Let me try to be as candid as possible. It was a struggle. I have a son that every time he goes out, I mean, he's 27, but for me, it's a real fear, right? It's a real fear because my family members, I have African American males that are family members, and I had to look and I had to think, could that happen to them? How would I feel if a police officer, approached my son, in the wrong way, or say something to them that would be deemed, unprofessional, right? So and for me, last year was very heartbreaking, and I was trying to process that as an African American woman, this is the African American, right? But also process it as a police officer, and so, looking at that situation and trying to figure out what could have been done differently, right? But I have somewhat of a bias, because for the last 3 years I've been I've been researching nothing but situations about police officers and the use of force, right? And reading through so many different articles, it caused me to have somewhat of a bias, almost against police officers. And that's a shame to say, because I am a police officer, but then I have to look at every situation individually. But it is heartbreaking to know, and it's heartbreaking to read, it's heartbreaking to see it on TV, it's heartbreaking to see how there is just a bias, not only just a bias, but a disparity in how African American males are seen or deemed or categorized or stereotyped as being a harsh criminal, no matter what entity they're in. And how people can just look at these individuals with such hurt, like that's the first thing that they look at them, and they look at an African American male, and it's like they're automatically someone that is revered as wrong, or someone that has already been criminalized. And I'm just looking at the situation. We're not just talking about George Floyd, right? We're talking about several situations that are like the George Floyd situation. How about the young boy that was just in the hotel, and how he was accused of stealing the phone? Wow. He was already prosecuted. He was prosecuted for being a Black man. And things like that is upsetting. And I said I was going to be candid, but it's upsetting for me. And it's upsetting for me because I have Black nephews. I have a son. I have two sons that are African American. And my question is, if it will be them next. So it's a topic, it's a struggle. It's a struggle. And you're talking about the balance, balancing out this struggle that I fear, or trying to just not to look at us as police officers as someone that is always out to criminalize the African American male.
Yeah. Thank you. Wow.
Sorry.
Man, we're going to be praying for you, because that's a tough place to be, I mean, to be able to, to deal with that, struggle. I mean, that's something that, for those who are watching, if you pray for the police, you should. And that's an area where you can pray, because there are a lot of people in there that are going through the same conflict. The issues are there, and then, they have to confront on both sides. Sometimes people see them and they transfer the same bias to them, and then at the same time they are also there. They have family members, they have sons, they have nephews, and all that experiencing the same thing. So that's a way that we can pray, with the police and partner with them. Thank you so much, Sergeant, for being candid and sharing that. Yeah. So I'm just going to let Scott speak. Right now, then we're going to have the entire panel come. We're going to watch something, and the entire panel will come, and we're going to be ending this with that. So Scott, I know your audio has been, messing up. So sorry about that. But, I want you to get a word in. Can you hear us, Scott? Yeah, so we're still having some problems with his audio. All right, so we're going to move on. We'll be back. Please stay.
What was your question?
Oh, the question, we're talking about.
I can hear you.
Oh, we're talking about the challenges that you face, like the weight and the challenges that you have to endure in that race, in your own specific area of calling. That's what we're talking about. Yeah. You can hear us, but we can't hear you. All right, so. Sorry about that. I accidentally went out of the studio. So so I'm gonna bring that that video back, and then we're gonna bring everybody in, and that's how we will be ending today. It's been powerful. So just give me a second. Hope I'm able to get to that place where we were.
And we're just
Time here.
All right. So we are back for the final panel. Just want to wrap up our discussion today, bringing everybody on. I know Sheila had to step out. So welcome back, everybody. Can you all hear me clearly? By the way, the person that was playing the saxophone is Femi. So Femi is one of our panelists. He was the one playing the sax at the experience there. So it's great to. I think I was there in that meeting. Was I? I think I was. Was I?
Yeah, you were there 2019.
Yes, I was there. Yeah, it was such a very powerful experience of worship. So bringing everybody back, we've had the discussion and we have our audience. I just wanted to have some cross interaction. So from your own side, first panel, second panel, is there something that you observed? Let me talk to the first panel, right now. Something that you heard from the second panel that you'd like to comment on our theme of running the race. So I'm gonna throw it open. The Aquila ones and Penny. Was there something that you heard that's just did something in your mind while the second panel was talking?
I like, I like what the sergeant said about, you run your own race. You're not looking to the left. You're not looking to the right. You're focused on the race that you're running. So, you don't let comparison be the thief of joy, right? You focus on what you're intended to do, what your purpose is, and what your race is. I really like that.
Awesome. Thank you. Any more, Femi?
Yeah, actually, I was going to say that too. It really stuck out. Knowing that your race is personal, it's not something you can do for others or someone can do for you. And but combining that with you asked a question about collaboration, and I think one of the pastors was answering that. Uh, I think what I liked about that, or what came to my mind when it was talking, actually, is that one of the challenges we face in collaboration, I see that even though it's good to collaborate, even though it's a good thing to really come together, but I see that a lot of people, when it comes to collaboration, they are not really collaborating, but they are instead of collaboration, you have cohabitation. That's the way I see it, and everybody is coming with their individual race into the game, and at the end of the day, everybody is doing their own thing, running their own vision, rather than actually coming together for one goal to achieve it, a set goal.
Thank you. So when I was doing my PhD, and I just, I'm sorry to bring this. When I was doing it, one of my dissertation actually was on a particular dream that I've always had, which is like cross-sectoral collaboration. So, like, there's a way churches can collaborate together, but cross-sectoral collaboration is when artists, churches, governments, businesses, like all the different spheres are working together. They are leaving their silos, right? Just like we have silos in the church, we have silos in other spheres, but they're all leaving their silos, and families, everybody's working together like an orchestra, in the community. And I just wanted to speak it. I know, Pastor Moody, that's one of those things that you also work towards. How can we see that? I mean, do you guys share that kind of a vision where in the community, all the sectors from government to families and all that, they're all working together for the improvement of the community and, of course, for the kingdom of God to expand? Pastor Moody, and anyone can speak to that.
Could you say the question again?
Yeah, so I was talking about cross-cultural collaboration. Sorry, cross-sectoral, sectoral, like business, governments, arts, entertainment, like everybody coming together. Like, how will that look in a community? And is that a dream that you have? And how do you think that can ever come to pass?
Yeah, I mean, that's something that I truly dream of. I wish that it would happen first with the body of Christ, because we truly need to be the witness to the world. And Jesus said it over and over again, like the world would know that we are his disciples by the way that we love one another. And I know that the body of Christ is in all these different sectors. And if we could be that witness, it would be awesome. So yeah, it's a dream, but relationships, I believe, is the key. Knowing Sergeant Walton, her heart and her heart to see the community change, knowing her, not just knowing her as the sergeant, as a police officer, but knowing her, if she doesn't show up or she does something wrong to me, that does not stop me from wanting to work with her, because we have relationship that's so much greater than a one event kind of mindset. So I think if we're going to see greater collaboration, we need to sit down, break bread together with one another.
Yeah,
we get to know each other. Like Pastor Olu, he could text me tonight and say, "Hey, do you want to get on this panel with me?" And that could happen. You know why? Because I broke bread in Pastor Olu's house.
Yep.
That even if it's inconvenient to me, this is my brother that it goes beyond an event. And if he wants me to be a part of something, I'm not even going to eat my dinner yet until the shadow is over.
Awesome. And I love that breaking bread together, breaking bread. We're talking about that, in church over February, just talking about together and breaking bread. Sergeant, what do you want to speak to that about cross-sectoral collaboration? Is that a dream? And, how do you think that can be facilitated? Yes, Sergeant? I think we're having some problem with your audio. Okay. Anyone can speak to that? Quickly. Pastor Olu, I think you're muted, Pastor Olu.
Okay, so I can talk. I think, thank you, Pastor Lan and everybody for talking about it. I believe, what we need to do as a body is for us to collaborate. And, earlier today when we were doing like CityLight, we were talking to Pastor Mark and was talking about the CUIP, the Chicago United in Prayer, the training that is coming up. And there's one thing that he said that really, really struck my mind. He said, the vision is big enough for everybody to participate. So when you are collaborating, one thing you need to realize is that know your own niche when you are collaborating, and just be yourself when you are collaborating. Don't try to be somebody else. Like I know Sergeant Yolanda very well. I know her heart, for the 2nd district and for the city as a whole. I know her passion is to see younger kids, being free, younger kids having resources that they want to be part of. Our desire is to see, having a crime-free, city. So what can I do in my own part? I'm a pastor, and I know what I'm called to do. So what I need to do is that even though we want to make the city a better place, we want to make the city safer, what can I do? What can I contribute in my own part? And go to her and collaborate and do my own part. My own part is that if there's any crime, I can, they can go to the crime scene and just pray for the people and just be there for the people. If there's anything that's going to happen, if I know that somebody's going to commit a crime, I can work with the commander and I'll just go to that person and talk to that person that, I know that we know that this is who you are, this is what you're doing, but we're here to let you know that even though the police are here, we are the pastors, we are here. And we believe in your future. We believe that you can be a good resource to this city and just talk to them and just love on them. So I think in collaboration, everybody needs to understand their own part and play your part. And once you understand your own part and play your part, it makes the collaboration easy and it makes it easier for everybody to do what they're supposed to do and just trying to be other person.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, everyone. We're at the stopping point for SPICEE night for tonight. But before we go, I wanted to give you everybody just like 30-second last word, what you would like to say to the audience. Just go ahead. Let's start with the Akinla ones quickly. 30 seconds.
I would just say to just be prayerful about your purpose and to surround yourself by people and an environment where people are doing the thing that you love.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. I think be prayerful. Yeah, I agree. Be prayerful about your purpose.
Okay. Thank you.
I will go next.
Yeah, Sergeant.
Just last words to sum up. To always, yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes.
Can you guys hear me?
We can hear you. We can hear you.
Hello? Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Okay. Yes.
Okay, great. So just the last words is that never walk out the house with the armor of God, on your side. Stay true to yourself, stay true to God, and just keep on walking forward and don't look back.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much. Pastor Moody?
Yeah, very simple. Just the theme of tonight, run the race that God set before you. look at other people.
Thank you, sir. Femi?
Yeah, I would say keep your eyes on the goal and never lose focus.
Awesome. Thank you, Pastor Olu.
The same thing with Brother Femi. Keep focus. Keep your eyes on the focus and don't lose the focus. Keep your eyes on the race and don't lose the focus. And if you need help, don't be shy to ask people for help.
Yeah. I mean, I think my own word for tonight from everyone is, just collaborate, endure. Part of how you are going to be sustained, like that proverb says, that if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go with others. So I'm going to encourage everyone watching us. We're all in a race, right? Discover your path, but make sure that as you are running that race in that path, in that sphere that God has put you, make sure that you reach out to others. Have people around you, have people who pray for you, who cover you. Reach out to other people that are not doing exactly what you are doing or that are doing similar things to what you are doing. You'll be able to maximize your calling and your purpose when you collaborate, when you work together. So I really want to thank you all. Thank you so much for coming on SPICEE Night and giving us your time today and giving us your insight. I have been blessed, and I know that our audience also have been blessed. So audience, please, let's appreciate our panel before we let them go right now, so that Pastor Moody can eat his dinner, His dinner is getting cold.
It's cold.
It's cold already. So let's just appreciate them. Thank you so much. We truly, truly honor you, and we thank you for coming. I hope, we'll have some other conversations later, and, you will be gracious to come on, SPICEE Night or any of the other shows so that we can continue this conversation. We appreciate you, and thank you. So this is how we're going to be wrapping up for today for SPICEE Night for March. We're going to see you again in April, the first Wednesday of April, for another SPICEE Night where we're going to be dealing with, another topic. So we really, really appreciate you. You have been a blessing to us, as people are saying. You have been a blessing. So we're going to wrap up right now. Let's say bye-bye, to our panelists. Scott, I'm so sorry that your audio was messing up, but we'll get to Pastor Olu. Please get him on Light 360 so that we can have a long conversation. So please, thank you so much. I really apologize for that, because I wanted to hear you really speak. So thank you, everybody. We're going to wrap it all up while our panelists will be going off screen. There's just like a 1-minute spoken word video, and that's how we're going to, end SPICEE Night for tonight by one of our interns at the Light Development Center.
It seems to be conveniently uttered in regards to one's image. Although I am his, I know I am not yours. I was not developed in your womb, nor did I expand your hips, but like a child, I feed off of your every attraction. Does my emotion and protection not cross your mind? I feel death and weak at the thought of ever being able to express myself, for I know my words crawl through one ear and out of the other. Still, my brave face fools you. And does that not concern you? Is what that makes me difficult and less indulging and problematic? Are those the ways you perceive me? You distinguish my differences every moment that you can, and you keep revealing to me the things that I will never be. Your daughter. But to my Father I remain indeed a child of God.
Awesome. Thank God for that poem on identity. All right. So bye-bye, everyone. We're going to sign off right now. We will see you guys.
All right. Bless you.
Yeah, bless you. Bye. Yes.